Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. In today's special episode, we're switching things up a bit. We have some gems from CPAC that never got to see the light of day. So today, we're hearing from Pennsylvania Representative Scott Perry and former Deputy National Security Advisor of the United States, Katie McFarland. Let's dive in. Well, Congressman Scott Perry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Tiffany, thank you for this opportunity.
And so it seems right now all the rage is the Ukraine-Russia crisis, but I'm curious your take about how China plays in. What's China getting out of this?
Well, China's watching, number one. China is watching the tactics that the Russians are using. So Russia uses hybrid warfare, which, if you look at the Chinese model, a lot of the same things go back and forth. They use what's called unrestricted warfare. But I think they're going to watch that, not only to see how viable it is, how effective it is, but they're going to look at what the responses are from the United States and our allies, not only on the ground, but rhetorically and from society. They're going to look, is the United States, is this something they care about? Because they want to know, will we care about China trying to take over Taiwan? That's what they're wanting. Is there going to be a big outcry? Is there going to be a big backlash? What is the risk? They're going to do a risk assessment on a potential operation on Taiwan. And as you probably know, the flights over Taiwan now, military flights over Taiwan. So they're going to probe. At this time, while we're focused on Ukraine, they're going to probe Taiwan's defenses, but they're also probing our defenses at the same time. What are they going to do about it? What are they going to do if they're distracted? Because maybe the best time is now, or maybe the best time somewhere else where they're distracted. So everybody's watching very, very carefully.
And it seems between, say, Ukraine and Taiwan, there are quite a lot of differences. So I think a recent poll showed only about 15% of Americans supported sending troops to Ukraine, while about 58% supported that for Taiwan. And so it seems like Taiwan is very different in terms of ideology. It shows like what China could be if it was a democracy. There's also the Pacific, they're part of the first line of defense, right? So the Pacific Ocean's really important to the U.S. And then semiconductors, which, everything. So going forward, how do you see that playing out? Is American sentiment going to change towards both, or?
So American sentiment, especially when it means potentially being in a conflict, armed conflict, can change on a dime, unfortunately, right? So if Americans are dying overseas, whether it's in Ukraine or somewhere in the Taiwan Straits, that's going to have an effect on American psyche and American opinion. The other thing is that who's the commander-in-chief? Is the commander-in-chief deemed and seen as competent to prosecute, to execute the strategy and the tactics necessary to be successful? So even though many Americans are appalled by what they see happening in Ukraine, and they're very concerned about potentially what might happen in Taiwan, I'm not sure at this point, looking at recent polling, that they have a lot of confidence that a President Biden as commander-in-chief is capable, is competent to do what needs to be done to safeguard America's interests abroad. And so I think that plays into it too. So timing is important. The chief executive is important. The commander-in-chief is important. Capabilities are important, but certainly what's at stake is important too. I don't know that many Americans see what's at stake in Ukraine. Now, they might start realizing it more if the Ukraine fight escalates closer to NATO alliance countries where we have Article 5 treaty requirements. My point is, I think many of our points are that we don't want to get to that point, either in Ukraine or in Taiwan. So deterrence is the most valuable proposition for all of us. So because we don't want to get to the point of a shooting war with China or Russia. But we have failed to deter Russia in Ukraine. Let's not fail to deter China with Taiwan.
And so what could maybe the average Joe at home do to really help? Because it sounds like right now we're kind of waiting on...
I love the question. I love the question because you're right. People say, well, that's way over there, and we understand. We didn't know this, but now we do what China does, what China's intentions are. What can I do? Joe Citizen. Right now, we're in primary time for elections for House of Representatives in Congress and for United States Senate. And those are the people that generally, you can't change the presidency right now, that we got another 3 years for that. But you can start turning the ship of state on policy regarding the Congress, the legislative branch. And to date, the Congress has been unwilling to take China to task. A lot of rhetoric, but not a lot of action. It's time for people that are running for office to be questioned about what they would do if they were elected regarding China, and specifically what they would do. For me, it's an easy answer. I would label the Communist Party of China a transnational criminal organization, because that's what they are. Murders, rapes, disappearances, control of their population, labor camps, concentration camps, and intellectual property theft. They're committing not only human rights violations and crimes, but also economic crimes that just aren't prosecuted. They're not prosecuted because we're not doing it. We can't count on the World Trade Organization to do it. The United States of America must do it, and it's time that the representatives of the people recognize that. So ask your candidates what they're going to do about China, and if they come up with the wrong answer, find a different candidate. That's what you can do.
And so by labeling China a transnational criminal organization, what does that do? Does that ban companies from doing business, or how will that really help?
What that does is it allows the United States Department of Justice to prosecute criminally the violations that the Chinese Communist Party and its members, both in China and the United States and abroad, are involved in every single day. We don't do any of that right now, and there's no ability to do that. Now, people will tell you, well, we can't label a party a transnational criminal organization. Sure we can. Why? What's stopping us from doing this? Well, the party's in control of the country. It's a criminal organization. It's a criminal enterprise. We wouldn't shirk from our responsibility with the mafia if they were conducting criminal activity in our country and abroad that affects our country. Yet somehow with China we can't seem to do it. The reason is that people are greedy. And the Chinese market is huge, and everybody wants the cash associated with the Chinese market. Sooner or later, we're going to have to deal with China and their market, and it's not the Chinese people that we take issue with. It is the communist, the ruling party in China. But they're just a political party, and they're conducting criminal activities, and somebody needs to do something about it. Certainly, we should handle the criminal activity that's occurring in our country, and we're just refusing to do it.
And so, speaking of the Justice Department, I think they just ended the Trump-era China initiative, which was trying to stop, Chinese spies coming into universities. And I think that was on the grounds of, say, anti-Asian hate. There was some, so now they're like, oh, it's also Russians, Iranians, and stuff. So, what's your take on that?
This is just a distraction from the real thing. No one hates the Chinese people that are yearning to be free like the rest of the world. No one's got any animosity towards them. It is towards the Chinese Communist Party, but they just obviously, it's a smokescreen saying this Asian hate thing. It's just quite honestly a bold-faced lie, and people need to see it for what it is. The Chinese Communist Party is a criminal organization, and it needs to be treated as such.
Well, Congressman Scott Perry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
That was Pennsylvania Representative Scott Perry. And for those watching our full episode, joining us after the break, former Deputy National Security Advisor of the United States, Katie McFarland. We are now sharing a shortened version of our program on YouTube. That's after being demonetized for a year. Full episodes can be seen on our partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up for a 14-day free trial, please click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer, and see you soon.